evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. Tonight is Wednesday, March the 10th, 2021, and welcome to Dialogues with Doc. Yes, we have made it through another awesome and amazing week, and I'm just so excited to be with you guys again on tonight. I am so excited to be with you guys on tonight with another awesome and amazing and I'm just honored that you've been rocking with me for these weeks and we've been making it happen. And I hope and I pray that I have been providing dialogue and amazing guests for you that are coming on to share with each and every one of you. So tonight's going to be like no other different night. We're going to have some amazing conversations, some amazing dialogue, and have some amazing. And I'm just about tonight's show because I have some individuals coming who are going to help drive this conversation. You guys know how I operate. I love doing this show because I'm able to talk about different topics. And if there's ever something I don't know, connected to people who do know or who can provide even greater insight and in-depth information with regards to certain things. So tonight is what I'm going to be doing. Of course, you guys know each and every time that we hang out, there are some house rules. So the house rules are, please like the broadcast. If you're watching the broadcast, please comment during the broadcast. And if you're also watching and commenting, please share. And if you're on the YouTube channel, you can also subscribe to the channel so you always be notified when I do go live. You always be notified when I am uploading new information. And you can also go back to the YouTube channel, and all of the shows are there for each and every week since the month of August that we've been doing to provide great content. You can always go back previous shows there. Before we get started tonight, I know where you guys are watching from for the very first time. For the first time, you're a part of the family. If you've been rocking with me since the beginning, I appreciate you rocking with me. We're all family. So if you're watching, where you're watching from, comment where you're watching from. Of course, you guys know I'm in the DC area, so I'm holding it down for the entire DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. So I'm holding down the DMV, not the Department of Motor Vehicles, but DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I got it on lock once again for another week. If you're watching, comment in the chat where you're watching from, and I'll be sure to come back and make sure I shout you out and give you some love. Tonight, I finally get to say this. A couple of weeks ago, I said one of these days I want to come on and say tonight's show is sponsored by so-and-so. And I kept saying tonight's show is sponsored by so-and-so. Tonight's show is sponsored by so-and-so. And one of these days it's actually going to happen. So tonight's show is sponsored by none other than A Touch of Tennille. So if you go to A Touch of Tennille.com, please let them know that Dialogues with Doc sent you. A little bit about A Touch of Tennille. They've been in the art of gift giving since 2004. They provide creative surprises that are customized and specialized for the recipients that do receive them. And educator gifts are their. Remember, as we approach Teacher Education Week, or in my building we call it Staff Appreciation Week, that A Touch of Tennille will be a great individual, organization, and company to support for tonight. So go to their website, www.atouchoftennille.com, and let them know that Dialogues with Doc sent you. So again, Touch of Tennille is our sponsor on tonight. And if you're interested in becoming a show sponsor, please send me an email. drcalvin.green@gmail.com is my email address. I love to highlight and showcase small businesses or even big businesses. So if you would like to sponsor an episode of Dialogues with Doc, whether it be for a week, for a month, or whatever, please feel free to reach out to me and let me know. And I would love to highlight your business on one of the future episodes of Dialogues with Doc. So listen, if you're watching tonight in the chat, let me know where you're watching from. I do want to shout some people out before I bring my amazing guests on tonight who are going to help me drive and have this conversation. It's a very much needed conversation that I have been toying around with how to attack very intricately and very strategically. And I figured it was best to bring on some individuals who can help me better undergird the conversation and provide even greater insight and provide an even greater lift to the topic that we're going to be discussing on tonight. So let's see. Northeast DC, James, I appreciate you, man. DC is in the building. Thank you for joining tonight, James. Anyone else out there watching before I move on throughout the show and bring my awesome panelists on? If you're watching, where are you watching it from? Let me know in the chat. I know I have someone from Pennsylvania watching. I know I have someone from Dallas, Texas watching. I know I have someone from South Lake, Texas watching, but I need y'all to shout it out so I can shout y'all out. I know my mom was watching. She's probably watching between MacGyver or something. The DMV is here. I see you, Thomas. Thank you for supporting, brother. Oh no, it's Wednesday. She's probably watching Murder, She Wrote or something. I don't know. I can try to keep her schedule down pat. You know, when you get parents, you know, you become the parent after a while, and you have your own child. So you're like, man, I'm parenting my parent now. Grapevine, Texas is in the building. Thank you for watching, Sean. I appreciate you. All right, so I got DC in the building. I got the DMV in the building. I got Grapevine, Texas in the building. I'm sure I have Delaware in the building. I'm sure I have Pennsylvania in the building. And I'm sure I have Atlanta, Georgia in the building. Y'all just don't want to shout it out tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and shout it out for you guys and get this thing started. So tonight's topic is health and healing for Black males. Health and healing for Black males is the topic for tonight's episode of Dialogues with Doc. And remember, as we're going through the show tonight, please comment, please share. I have amazing guests on, and we like to engage with you guys as well. So please log into the chat. Please comment. If you have questions, we'll try to get to those as well. But I want to go ahead and bring my amazing and awesome guests on to get this thing started. So, of course, you guys know this is Dialogues with Doc. I like to bring my guests on a very particular way. So this week will be like none other. I'm going to bring them on the exact same way I bring everybody else on. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for my guests who are going to be joining me on tonight on Dialogues with Doc, Dr. Lance Young and Dr. Akil Dix. My brothers, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Give me 1 second. I'm clicking over here and running the show on my own tonight. So I'm trying to make sure everything is right. Good evening, gentlemen. How are you gentlemen feeling on tonight?
I am great. A little tired, but I'm doing good.
Likewise.
I got you. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining me on tonight. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm over here leveling out my sound as well. I don't want to sound like Teddy Riley. I want to make sure my stuff is right.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Gotcha. So Dr. Young and Dr. Dix, thank you for joining me on tonight with this topic of healing and health for Black males. I do want to go ahead and get the show started, and I want to start the show out very, very traditionally. It's a simple question. Just tell us a little bit about you and what you do. I thought about asking you guys for bios, but I said, but let me just let them say themselves what they do. So I don't know who wants to get started and jump in here, but just tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
I'm not as celebrated as Dr. Young, so I'll let him go first.
Well, look, that's a dangerous thing.
I'll say I'm not as decorated. I'm not as decorated as Dr. Young, so I'll let him go first.
All right. Well, I suppose I'll go first because of my age, if nothing else. First, it's my pleasure to be on the show. I want to thank you for inviting me to have this platform. I think it's a very important topic for us to broach. As was mentioned, I'm Lance Young. I serve as Associate Professor of Chemistry and James King Faculty Fellow at Morehouse College. I have been at Morehouse since 2003, having risen through the ranks with tenure and promotion, ultimately serving as department chair for about 5 years before I recently stepped away from that position. And what else can I tell you about myself straight away? Just that I am a Morehouse alumnus, I'm back at my alma mater, a place that's near and dear to me, so HBCU pride there. I'm also a graduate at Penn University, class of 2001 with a PhD in biological chemistry. I did a short postdoc, about 2 years at Emory University School of Medicine. And I say all that to mention that I'm a scientist by training. But with that in mind, as you can see, I'm also a Black man who's very much interested in public health. So of late, I've actually started to teach a class that's called Men's Health here at Morehouse, and I've really started to move into a public health space. And actually, that is what allowed for Dr. Dix and I to serve on a platform together last year. So that's the segue. I'll turn it over to my colleague, Dr.
Yeah, I told you I wasn't as celebrated as Dr. Young. Good evening, everybody. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me, Dr. Green. My name is Dr. Akil Dix. I am assistant professor at Lincoln University. Not to take nothing from Morehouse, but we're the first degree-granting university in the world. I serve in our health science department. I began my career at Public Health Management Corporation in Philadelphia, managing various public health contracts with the state of Pennsylvania and abroad. Before I left PHMC, I went on to work at Westchester University, where I got my undergrad degree from, and I taught there. And then I was offered the amazing opportunity to transition to Lincoln University as a tenure track professor in our health science department. I am also an IFBB Pro professional bodybuilder, and that sums it up. I don't, that's. I don't like it. I'm humble. I don't want to toot my own horn, but that's.
So
I have a public health. Go ahead.
This is the time to toot it, brother. Go ahead.
And again, like Dr. Young said, my dissertation was on men's health, so I am passionate about men's health and us as Black men in particular to living healthier and becoming healthier for ourselves, not only for ourselves but our families and our nation as a whole.
Definitely. I'm gonna go back a little bit. So for those of you who are watching, I just realized I'm doing two shows in one tonight. Tonight's main topic is health and healing for Black males, but on the low it's also another Black males in higher ed edition. So I did a show called Black Males in Higher Ed about a month ago, and I said I need to go back and revisit it. So tonight is like another installment of that as well. So I'm doing two shows in one tonight thanks to these brothers. So I appreciate you brothers so much for joining me. You guys already did the How Did You Connect? So you guys went on a platform together last year, and that's really what gave me the insights to do the show tonight. I was going, and I remember when Dr. Young posted it, and I remember when Dr. Dix posted it, and I said, man, that is an awesome and amazing topic. So I thank you gentlemen for allowing me to revisit that so that we can touch on those topics, some of those topics tonight as well, and provide even more insight to those who are watching who may need this awesome information. I try my best to get out information that's realistic, that's relatable, and that's relevant. So I definitely think that the topic tonight is definitely in that category. So thank you, brothers, for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing started. I want to start very superficial, very granular. Let's talk about, before we go into the main topic, the power and influence of an HBCU. We're all HBCU alums on here, and you both are alums and you're working at HBCUs as well. So can we talk about, before we get into the main topic, the power and the influence of what an HBCU is, what it has been, and what it can provide to someone out there who may be considering going to an HBCU?
I'll take a stab at it. Well, first of all, I am passionate about our students attending HBCUs. They were developed for us, by us, but not only for us, but for everybody. And I see, especially a lot of our students come from underserved backgrounds, and not having that person who they could connect with and look like them in the classroom, as particularly as myself and Dr. Young, and to see the growth, particularly of my students who came in broken all over the place, like all over the place, not put together. But when they left me, they're whole, and I believe that they only would get that at HBCU. Had they went to a PWI, that experience may not have been the same. And have went to a PWI myself, I recognize that they're not as nurturing as we are HBCUs. But not to take nothing away from them, but I think we give our students, particularly our men of color, that push and that kick that they also need.
Yes, sorry. So I want to echo that sentiment for sure, and I think I'll be a bit personal in talking about my journey towards Morehouse. So it was the only institution, only HBCU to which I completed an application. And that's not because I didn't hold HBCUs in high regard. It's just that the Morehouse man was iconic in my mind. I kind of had a sense for where I wanted to go. So I almost put all of my chips in the basket of going to Morehouse. And there were a few things that I was looking for. One was a place where Black excellence was modeled, where I could actually see people who were professionals, people who were engaged in community, who were doing excellent work, and after whom I could pattern myself. And I found that at Morehouse, and I think that that's something that students look for at HBCUs in general, that they probably will not get, at least to the same extent, at the same scale at PWIs. But another part of it was that, being at an HBCU was really the first place where I felt like I could just be my own excellent self, right? I didn't have to apologize for being smart. I didn't have to apologize for any part of what I was bringing to the table. Everything that I was okay. And the only task was for me to get continuously better. I really cherished that, so much so that when I left Morehouse, it only took a couple of years for me to realize that I needed to be back at an HBCU. I wanted to be back at Morehouse, but quite honestly, I would have gone to pretty much any HBCU in order to give back to students the same thing that had been invested in me, because it was a life-altering experience. It allowed me to become a scholar, to become a gentleman, and ultimately to become the self-actualized man I am today. So I am all for students selecting HBCU. Absolutely. I have no regrets about the decision that I made.
Yeah, and I personally couldn't see myself going back to a PWI. Not in the classroom, I couldn't see it, and having taught in an institution where I was a minority, it wasn't the fit for me, and my character. So it's just that when the opportunity at Lincoln presented itself, I ran to it because I knew that's where God was leading me to, and that's where I was needed to be. And I see the change in myself as well as my students by being there. So again, that HBCU not only changed me it changed me as a professional as well. It made me grow. It made me adapt. It made me change. It helped me become a better person by connecting with the students that we serve at our HBCUs.
And I love how you both said, like my school had a gate, so it was important that we entered the gates one way and left out the gates as graduates a totally different person. And a lot of times people don't understand. Sometimes I know friends myself who were just dropped off at the campus with a trash bag by their families, and that was it. You figure it out. But to have individuals on the campuses to help guide and help you navigate successfully all the ups and the downs and the high points and the low points, and to see someone that looks like me pouring into me and providing insight and direction is definitely a key piece in the HBCU.
Dr. Young, you losing him?
I
am.
Yeah, I was just typing in the chat here.
You losing me, Doc?
Yeah, you're a little choppy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I am giving Teddy Riley. Hold on. Wait a minute. Can't have it. Okay. Are we good now? Can you guys, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah,
I can hear you now.
Yep.
Okay. So working in higher ed, I'm sure that you see young men all the time struggle with mental health, physical health, sexuality, and masculinity. How do you provide light to them as professionals when it seems so dark around them? So we're in the trenches. We see all of these different things, and sometimes we're the only light that they encounter. So how do you provide light and help them navigate with some of the topics that we're discussing on tonight?
I think you got to. I meet my students where they are. I'm raw, rugged, and uncut. In each of these topics that you pose in this question, I've experienced. It's particularly with the mental health, the sexuality, the physical health, the masculinity. I get it all. So, any day I may get a question. I had a student come to me before we broke for the pandemic last fall. He came to me and he came to my office and he had his look of distraught on his face. And I asked him what's wrong. I said, close the door. And he was just like, I just can't go on. I lost a brother. I lost a cousin to violence within the past week. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot to deal on top of being a student. So, and I felt like he needed an outlet. So I was his first outlet, but I was like, maybe he needed to talk to a counselor. So luckily, you know, my office is next door to the counseling center. So I walked him over personally, you know, so to give him that outlet and that help that he needed to let him know it was okay to seek counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Because in our culture, we go pray about it and forget about it. But we don't teach counseling and prayer. But we need we need other things in addition to prayer. Yeah. But we're not taught that. Because we associate mental health counseling with being crazy, and that's just not the case. And that's a stigma that we need to overcome, especially within our culture. Mm-hmm. I don't know about, you know, so yeah.
No, you're on it, Doc. Dr. Young, did you want to jump in?
I did. So I think what's most important, I think this is going to apply across the board for every young male student that I encounter is, the first exercise is just affirming who they are. So I think a lot of what happens, particularly in the college setting, is that, you know, young men are coming. This is true for men and women, but for young men are coming to campus and they're really trying to refine their sense of self, and they have a lot of questions about who they are, a lot of insecurities about the components of their personality. And I think the first thing that really warrants discussion is just that you are okay as you are. Dr. Diskin can actually speak to this. When in the beginning of the semester, I typically will have students watch a film called Mask You Live In, where you know, we kind of unpack this whole concept of masculinity in Western society, particularly as it relates to younger men. And at the end of that, you know, we do kind of a discussion. But I then ask the question of everyone in the room, what kind of man are you? Just to see what type of answers are going to come up. I know, you know, if you're like me, you've heard that before, right? Either because, you know, you've done something that someone else thinks is suspect, what have you, and you get that question, what kind of man are you? And I ask that question of everyone. And then, you know, inevitably, someone's always going to ask me, what kind of man are you? And my answer to that question is always the kind of man I am. That's it, without any further qualification, because everyone's construct of masculinity, of manhood, is going to be slightly different. But the important thing is to stand in the space with confidence about who you are. There is no right and wrong way to actually be a man, so to speak. There are some things that are going to be acceptable, socially acceptable, some things that you might want to refine. But the first thing that I think is important for every man is to understand that the type of man that they are is okay. Once you have entered that space, then it creates an opening for you to start dealing with all those other issues. You know, why it is that we don't tend to seek assistance when it comes to mental health or physical health, what have you. Once you get people into that safe space, they can really start thinking about, all right, what do I need to do in order to take care of this man that I am?
Right. I love how you said, identify with the fact that I'm okay. I'm okay with who I am. I'm okay with where I am right now. My end objective is to grow and become even better. And a lot of times that whole piece of just accepting who we are is key and detrimental in growth, and you know, in the growth of us and the evolution of us as men, especially Black men. We have to just realize that I'm okay, and and I'm going to get better from this, but I have to first realize that I'm okay, and I'm okay with being who I am. How was health and healing growing up for you? And why is healing such a controversial topic for our population, especially Black males? Like Dr. Dick stated earlier, we don't talk about, you know, sometimes, yeah, I can pray about it, but sometimes I need some extra sauce on top of the prayer. So what was it like in your household or growing up as a young man? How was health and healing for you? And I want to take a stab at why you think healing is so controversial for us.
Well, growing up, it wasn't a discussion. I grew up in a single parent home, strong Black mother. You know, you be strong. And and as I became an adult, there were some situations in life that completely broke me. Like I was broken, and I wore it. I wore my brokenness very well. And I had to myself go through the process of healing myself before I can even attend to anyone else's needs. So a lot of times as men, a lot of us men are broken. We're in shambles, but we wear this veil, we wear this mask to make ourselves like we're so strong, but in the core of us, we're broken. So growing up, it wasn't something that was talked about. Now as adults in my family and I, we talk about healing because I bring it up. And it's just like, my sisters are like, wow, like, yeah, I agree. There's something that we didn't talk about because my mom, she just wasn't this emotional woman. So that terms of healing and emotions, it wasn't a norm. But now, as an adult myself, I focus on my healing, not only my mental healing, but my personal healing and my physical healing. And I think all these put together makes the man whole.
Definitely. Yeah, you're right. Go ahead, Doc. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of texture to try to answer this question. So the first thing I think that has to be acknowledged is that there's a socioeconomic contribution to this. So first of all, if we just think about communities of color, African Americans, we have historically been sidelined by the medical community, or we have not had access to healthcare in the way that others perhaps have. So in that regard, we just do not have the same touch points to taking care of ourselves that perhaps others do. So that's the first part of it. And this becomes even more pronounced when we start thinking about men of color, African American men. Men in general tend to only, engage healthcare in order to get episodic care. Like when there's something wrong, we either have to be bleeding or keeled over, what have you, before we even seek the care of a healthcare provider. And even then, we might, just try to muscle through it and hope that we don't just die in the process. So that's something that is, uniquely male, that we tend to just, try to hunker down and deal with problems on our own rather than getting the care that we need. Now, for African Americans, I mean, there's a contribution of this that has to do with, machismo, to think that we feel like we have to be tougher, that we have to, be able to withstand anything that is thrown at us in order to show that we are not weak. So there's that facade that we're always trying to put up that, there's nothing wrong with me. And it chips away at our health from a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint, and ultimately it causes our demise. So yeah, there's a lot of parts to this, right? I mean, part of it, the baseline of it is that we just are not used to taking care of ourselves. We don't have access to the healthcare, and we just don't know how to ask for help when we actually need it.
But Dr. Young, it's even we have access to it, we don't utilize it.
That's true. I was going to say that. Yeah.
I know several men of our age, well, my age, I'm older now, I can say that now, who have access to healthcare and don't use it. So I think it's more so societal in our foundation of how we grow up that also plays into that. Yes, there are barriers to healthcare. There are access issues. Yes, I get that there are. But us, I can put a group of 25 men in a room together who have healthcare, and I can say, do you utilize your healthcare to the fullest extent? And have them probably say no.
That's exactly right. That's what I meant by episodic care. That we only go when we have a crisis, that we might actually engage the healthcare system, even if we have insurance. So yeah, there's that part of it that that warrants explanation as well.
We're reactionary,
and we're paying for it and still won't use it. Mm-hmm. This is the crazy part. We already talked about we had to try to get to the money, and we're paying for something and still don't use it. And we hate to waste money.
Right.
I'm sorry, Dr. Dix, you were jumping in.
I said we're so reactionary.
Yeah.
We're reactionary people. And like Doc said, we had to be, almost knocking at death's door to seek help, which is very unfortunate. And then once that time comes, we finally seek help. It's too late. It's too late. Our cancer has metastasized. It went from our prostate now. It's in our blood now. It's in our lung can now. It's in our pancreas. We have 2 weeks to live for something that we could have prevented a year, 2, 3 years prior.
Yeah, but can I just kind of point out something, that this is one of those cases where model behavior becomes important. Because if you were to ask those same men that you sat in a room what the men around them actually did, you don't necessarily see men who are taking care of themselves. It is usually the exception, not the rule, that you do find men who will be very open about the fact that they're seeking a physician's care, that they might go to counseling. They are few and far between, and we tend to just pick up on the cues around us. If no one else is doing it, then you don't think that it's normal for you to do so as well.
So I think that's something we have to change. I think, and we raise our children. we have to instill in them that it's okay to go get your physical every year. It's okay to go to the dentist every twice a month. I mean, every 6 months. It's okay to go to mental health counseling if you need it. Let them know, like you said before, it's okay. Right. It's okay to seek these things. It's normal. We have to begin to normalize healthy behaviors.
Right. And not just for our children, but for our students as well. And I think that the two of us are very intentional about doing this with our students. I know I'm an open book. Probably my students would complain that I probably tell them too much about my medical history, but I think it's important to do so that they can, maybe seek care and not have to fall into the same pitfall that I did.
Exactly. I love how you both have said the same thing. Normalize healthy behavior. Realize that it's okay to say I'm not okay. And that's what I think a lot of, even in the school that I work in a high school. I used to be in higher ed, but a lot of my high school students, hey, Akil, how's your day going? Man, I'm okay. But you're really not okay. I can tell by your voice that something's bothering you. And just the need for you to be able to have someone to speak with is there, but they're so quick to say I'm okay, and they're really not. Both of you guys, I connected with you guys via social media, so I know how you guys operate. So the characteristics of a healthy Black man. I want your guys' take on this. What are some characteristics of a healthy Black man, and how do you maintain a healthy lifestyle? What are some of your best practices?
Go ahead, Doc. It's all you.
I was going to defer to you. You are, in fact, a model of fitness here. So,
right.
I thought Dr. Dix is going to jump on this one. I'll give my short answer here. So I'm a father, and I can tell you that everything that I do in terms of the way that I take care of my body, it has to be in furtherance of me being a father, meaning I need to be here for the long haul for my children. So that means on a daily basis, my habits have to demonstrate that. I have to exercise every day. I need to adopt a diet that is going to allow me to live well, to have vitality so I can play with my children. That's one of the drivers for me, is just to make sure that I have that vitality. That means getting the sleep that I need. It means also removing myself from stressful situations. And as an academician, I can tell you that, those situations arise quite a bit, but you also have to know when something is not serving you well, when something is in fact causing you stress, undue stress, that it's okay to say no or to remove yourself from that situation, because at the end of the day, your health, your wellness should be a priority. I can guarantee that at any job, as much as you may love it, if you were to die, if you were to be hospitalized, what have you, they would replace you the next day. So the onus is on you to make sure that you take care of yourself so that you can be a whole being, and so that the people that rely on you are able to do so for the long haul.
And again, I share your sentiment. Again, I believe in what I put in my body is what will show out. What you put in will outwardly show. And again, I'm big on, and it's so vain of me, but I don't want to look old. So I just feel like if I take care of myself from the inside, it will show on the outside. And I look at a lot of my people who are in my age range. I'm like, wow, you look like you're 30 years my senior, because their lifestyle is not the same. And I see, it shows, like, if you live a healthy lifestyle, you can maintain that vitality within your body. And now we're getting to an age right now where things are starting to occur. When I get up in the morning now, my knees hurt now, my ankles hurt. I got to sit there for a minute and get my bearings together. But 15 years ago, it wasn't like I can pop right up and keep it moving. But so these are things I notice with me a change. And so I'm like, I don't like to feel like this, but that's the aging process, and it's something I really can't help. But me being a bodybuilder, I put out a wear and tear in my body too. So my maintenance for me is a little different than the next person. I had to go see the chiropractor every 2 weeks. I had to go get massages every 2 weeks. So my maintenance is different from the average person who exercises 3, 4, 5 times a week. But again, we must adopt a healthy lifestyle. Eating healthy is fun. It's not boring. Going to the gym, make it fun. Make it something that you desire to do. But we don't teach that in our culture. We don't teach healthy living and eating in our culture. But I think if we began to change our culture and the way we think, we would have less, more comorbid conditions and chronic diseases amongst our people. And that's why since COVID came, it has the disproportionately affected Blacks more so because of our underlying conditions that we are living with. Hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, all these things. Yes, COVID is a deadly virus, but again, we were killing ourselves way before COVID.
That's right.
But we just didn't know it. And it's sad to say a lot of our men, we just don't take care of ourselves. And it's just like, what must we do to change the way in which we live in adopting a healthier lifestyle? And it's not just eating, it comes down to sex, it comes down to environment, it comes down to mental and physical and mental health and emotional health. So all these things culminated makes a healthy man.
I love how you both tackle that. And I look at myself. I'm not gonna lie. When the Chadwick Boseman notice came out about him passing, it threw me. It stumbled me for a second because I'm like, this man was 42 years old. I just turned 41, and I'm in that age range, and we're in a space where we can't even get colonoscopies and stuff until we're of a certain age. So I'm not even that far in age from him. I'm years behind the law required age that I could even qualify to even get checked out. So it really threw me for a second, like, man, like I have to do better taking care of myself with the things that I eat, the things that I encounter, like you said, how I protect my peace. Because sometimes my peace is impacted by work, like Dr. Young is saying, sometimes you got to just say, I can't do it, or don't sign up for that. Or even there's certain different things that I had to start doing differently in the last 6 months to just, present myself in a more healthier manner, because I do want to be here for the long haul. I don't want to look like Akil was saying, like I had a hard knock life. I want to be around for a while. So, Dr. Young, you talked about this. I want to go back to this. I did my homework before I did the show last week. So you told me about the mask you live in. So I wanted to bring that topic up tonight because I'd never heard of it before, and it took me a minute to find it. It wasn't on YouTube, but thank goodness my Fire Stick was able to put it up. So I finally watched The Mask You Live In. I wanted to discuss that on tonight. This is kind of how you guys connected, and there was I call it what do you call it? A Lyceum series, kind of sort of, that happened with you two on the campus of Morehouse after you showed that documentary to your students. So I wanted to tackle some of that tonight. So I want to talk about with The Mask You Live In. It was so impactful and so powerful to the point where anybody watching of any ethnicity, sexual orientation, or whatever could see themselves in the conversations and in the dialogues and in the skits and things like that. So I want to first tackle this hypermasculinity topic based off of the documentary. So with the hypermasculinity, I want to discuss it as from a lens of, can we discuss it and the challenges created by society today, especially with this social media, TikTok, Instagram type stuff and other vices. Even as recently as today, before the show, I saw back home in Texas that there was a young man being bullied, and he went to a party and he was the only black boy, and they put urine in his cup and made him drink it, or something along that line. So can we talk about this for a little bit? And just, I wanted to get you guys feedback on it, and just let's just vibe with it.
Yeah. So the question was posed to me. I'll go ahead and just first start by trying to clarify some terms, because I think that's important up front. So when we talk about hypermasculinity, that's, the exaggeration of masculine characteristics, right? But that's to be distinguished from the way that we talk about masculinity being toxic masculinity or healthy masculinity, because I don't think that masculinity in and of itself necessarily has to be a negative thing. There are things that I enjoy about, the way that I express my manhood, right? I'm a person, maybe not to the extent as Dr. Dix, but I'm a lifter also. I'm a person who's really, in the fitness community. I really love that part of it. I actually enjoy parts of so-called bro culture. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that as long as it serves you, as long as it edifies who you are. Where we run into problems is where those exaggerated manifestations of masculinity become dangerous to us, or they become dangerous to the people around us. That's the toxic masculinity that I think we often need to tackle. And that toxic masculinity is very much juxtaposed with a rejection of all things feminine. Meaning that, even as a man, if you are in any way effete, if you express any characteristics that are typically associated with women, that you're somehow suspect. And, there is, that rejection often comes with aggression, right? That there's aggression, there's violence that is often going to be, expressed towards people who look that way, be they effeminate men or women. So the toxic masculinity definitely needs to be addressed. But at the same time, again, I want to affirm that masculinity in and of itself, I mean, there are lots of different ways to express masculinity. They're not all necessarily bad. Dr. Dix, you probably want to get in here before I start.
I think you said everything that I was going to say. Being a man is fun. Right. I like being a man. And the thing, what I can say is masculinity is being attacked. And I think I'm going to tread lightly here. I don't want to offend anybody. But I think, people we have now in this society we live in now, we're not teaching masculinity because our boys don't see real men. So I want to word this the right way. I don't want to offend your audience, Dr. Green, but it's just that
we got to have this conversation. Let's go.
I think, like what Dr. Young said, it's okay to have healthy masculinity, and and sometimes we have been raised by women. It has watered down the ideals of masculinity. And I see that, being raised by a single mother myself, I didn't understand manhood until I got in my late 20s. Because it wasn't a behavior that I saw. All I was around was a feminine world, growing up with my mom and 5 sisters. So I didn't understand masculinity. I didn't know what it was like to be a man. But now, it's things in my pursuit of manhood, it's a continuum. These are things I'm learning every day. It's things I didn't know how to do. It's things I didn't know. It was man issues I didn't know how to deal with as a man because I didn't have that masculine role in my household. So now society has made it seem as though when we're being a man, we're being toxic. And sometimes it's just us being men. And so it's like, where's that fine line that we can tread without being called toxic or just being to this or to that? Where can we find that happy medium where we can't make everyone happy? Well, so I say where everyone can be in harmony.
So we're all academicians here, so I hope I can maybe pose this question, but I heard the term a couple of times, real men. So I maybe want to just explore what that perhaps means. So if we're talking about real men, what does that mean? Because
with the ideals of man, we don't see men in our households. It's becoming slim and slim. We don't see real men stepping up to the plate, modeling the way, and the way men should carry themselves. Such as basic, Dr. Young, is tying a tie. Something so basic as tying a tie. I have young men who can't even do that.
Yeah.
So where's that coming at? That's something that growing up, that's something my grandfather taught me. It's that our older uncles taught us. But now, so this basic is tying a tie, such as how to deal with men issues. It's carrying yourself as a man in a certain construct of per se. And we don't have that now. So now, even when my young men come to me with their men issues, they say, I can't talk to my mom about this. She's not going to understand. I don't have a dad to talk to. Only you can understand where I'm coming from. So that's what I say about real men. We need to, it's not so much as being real, but being available to understand our boys and our men at the core of their needs. Things, understand issues that women just cannot and will not ever understand them at. There's things about your wife will never understand. And is that fair to say?
Yeah. So I totally get that. So I mean, being able to connect with other men and connect with other boys, and to have our issues resonate with each other, I totally get that part of it. The reason why I pose that question is, that oftentimes when we use terms like real men, it means different things to different people, right? So there's that presentation of looking like a man and carrying yourself like a man, knowing how to tie a tie, what have you. You can have that person modeling that behavior in the household, but is he a real man if he in fact is beating his wife? Or if he's abusing his children, right? Because those are also expressions of masculinity that are in fact accepted in some regards, right? And on the flip side of that, let's just say that there's another man that is in the household and, perhaps he doesn't model those types of behaviors. He is perhaps a little bit more effeminate, what have you, but he is caring. He is tender with his children. He is someone who is responsible, who makes sure that everyone else in the household is provided for, what have you. When we start comparing those two, are either one of them any more of a real man than the other? So what things do we actually value when we start talking about manhood and when we start talking about masculinity? Because a lot of these things, sure, we all celebrate them, but they're surface characteristics, right? What really matters is what's at the heart of the man. At least for me, when I think about my construct of manhood, I mean, all of this stuff here is great, right? But when I die, people recall what type of man I was. My hope is that they will say he is someone who cared about community, someone who took care of his children, someone who loved his wife. Those are the things that have nothing to do with how I look and how I walk every day and how people see me, but they have everything to do with what I did while I was on this earth.
Mm-hmm. And to add to what you both are saying, the whole real men conversation, and we've all been there. Just with something as simple as a student coming to you and just listening to them. Like I just need somebody to listen, and I'm like, okay, well, just the fact that you listen to me in the midst of a heated moment that I was having comes across as a real man for some students. And it's something as simple that I've come to learn in the school that I work in. They don't have they have men around them, but they're from the street, so they're in and out the household. Like Dr. Young said, they beat their mom, but when they come to school or they come to campus, that's that safe haven for that young man to take the mask off, to let his guard down a little bit. I want to make sure. I don't know about my other professors, but I'm going to be on time for Dr. Dick's class and Dr. Young's class because I know, number one, I probably won't get in if I'm late. Number two, they built a strong relationship with me, so I have a foundation with them where I know I can discuss and talk to them about certain things. And number three, I see me when I see them, so that provides a glimmer of hope for them. So that whole real man piece, unfortunately, like Dr. Dix was saying, some of them don't even experience that until they get to their college campus.
Yeah.
I did a show a couple of months ago on Black male educators, and I asked everyone on the panel, could they tell me when they had their first Black male teacher? And it stumped a lot of them because they really couldn't even think back, and they were like, well, I think my first one was when I got to college. And for me, I remember it was the 9th grade in Dallas, Texas, and it was the ROTC instructor. So technically, he really wasn't a content level teacher because he was on the recruitment side for the Army at the time. So having those types of conversations, and the real man will always evolve. I think that's just to add to what Dr. Young was questioning. It's just a depiction of what we think individually, because it looks different in every house. It's like we can read the same passage and each glean something different from it. But there is a common core and a common theme that we do know what the definition of a real man should look like or what he should be. So thank you for posing that question, because it looks different. But we're all providing that glimmer of hope and life for somebody on our campus, because they've never met a Dr. Dix or a Dr. Young. And then when they meet you, it's like, you can't keep them off your coattails because what you doing? Where you going? Can I be your mentee? Can I do this? Can I do that? And it's just, it goes to show that we're definitely making impacts and great strides with the work that we're doing. I want to go here and I want to get your insight on it. Where am I going? This thing is going. I got questions that I'm trying to pull out the right ones. Okay. How do you think as an adult now, how do you think your childhood impacted your ability to be in friendships, relationships, whether they be healthy, unhealthy? I know for me growing up, kind of similar to Dr. Dix, it was just me and mom. And I have an older sister. And when they say Papa was a Rolling Stone, he definitely was, because my sister's 2 weeks older than me. So I kind of resented my dad growing up because I felt like he chose that family over, supporting me, and I'm a boy and I'm your last child. So it was different. So grew up with mom, and grandma unfortunately had 4 girls. So I probably got an uncle maybe when I was 18, but now I'm getting ready to go to college. So it definitely did impact me growing, because I didn't have that positive male figure growing up outside of the pastor at church or the ROTC instructor, like I just talked about, or other men. And I really feel like it kind of made me leery of friendships and relationships, because I really didn't know how to navigate. And even as an adult, like Dr. Dix is saying, we're still evolving and learning things about ourselves. So I definitely think that my childhood impacted me as an adult with how I maneuver with friendships, relationships. Pray I get out of these situationships and whatever kind of ships they decide to define and put in the dictionary before the end of the year. So I'll pose that question to you guys.
Well, I mean, yeah. I used to, have resentment toward my dad, but now we have the best relationship I could ever ask for. Did it affect me? It affected the way I looked at people, because I had this fear of being hurt. So if I didn't allow you to get so close to me, you couldn't hurt me. So and even still, I'm not letting you get so close to me, because I guess it's damaging.
Mm-hmm.
That's it's not healthy. It's probably why I'm not married, because it's just that I just don't. It's just I have this. And the older I get, the more comfortable I get with being in my box by myself. And I guess that if I would have seen healthy marriages around me growing up, it would probably been something I would want to pursue. But now I'm just like, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that, because I didn't see it. So I think in my childhood and growing in my adulthood, I didn't see these healthy relationships around me. So it's just like, it was nothing that I aspired to have.
Right.
In terms of relationships, but friendships, I have awesome friendships, and I don't use that term lightly. I just don't. But relationships in marriage, something I was just like kind of standoffish against.
What's weird is that I have a similar experience to Dr. Dix in that regard, where even when I was younger, used to look at the relationships around me, and I was very unsettled by many of them, just because I did not see the expressions of love that I thought should exist between married people, for example. So just a little background. My parents divorced when I was just before I turned 5. My father remarried, and he had another household, and I lived with my mother, who raised my sister and I, pretty much until I left and went to college. And while there were a lot of marriages that did persist within our family, I can't say that I saw too many marriages that I wanted to emulate within them, because I just did not see what looked like happy relationships to me. So I grew up with that concern. All right, so when I do find a partner, how are we going to make this work? Because I have not seen an example of the type of relationship, the type of life that I want to live. But the charge for me became, all right, so I have to invent it. So rather than, I guess, we all respond to things a little bit differently. But for me, I became that much more invested in making sure that, when I got married, I was going to give it my all. I don't know what you all did in your marriages to make it look like this, but I know what mine is going to look like. And it hasn't always been perfect. I've made mistakes. I will probably, continue to make mistakes, what have you, but the commitment to making sure that my marriage looks different from all the other ones that I've seen, that's been kind of the thing that's driven me thus far. 15 years in, knock on wood, it's working.
Oh, wow.
So
congratulations.
Praise God on that.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
That's a generation, Doc.
Listen.
Yeah, it is. That's right. I never thought of it like that.
Look, and nowadays, I mean, just to be honest, 15 years is like 30. You're thinking like, when you look at the people around that we're surrounded by, and the divorce rates and things like that are high, and things like that. 15 years is amazing. People around. Yes, we should. Thank you, Nakia. Yes, we should protect our heart. However, because of her, we tend to cage our heart. No, that's definitely a true statement. When we talk about healthy, keeping the heart healthy and keeping it pumping, sometimes you got to protect it. You don't have any other choice but to protect it, because you don't want all that. Yeah, you gotta. If you know, like I know, you better protect it, because this is what people are after. And if they can get to your heart, I may be wrong, Dr. Young. Isn't it like there's a something in one of these fingers that can tell you where your heart? I'm not good, but there's something where you can tell someone's heartbeat by something. I may be wrong. Okay, Nakia, thank you for that, because I don't want to give the wrong information and be cited and get charged up by it. But I thought there was some type of pulse monitor or something in one of the fingers where you can tell someone's heartbeat or something, but I could be wrong. I saw something. No, I'm gonna go back to the match you live in. For the last thing, they talk about intimacy and connections in the match you live in. For males, especially Black males, is there a loss of intimacy and connections for Black males in friendship circles? I live and work in a culture where the boys will say, "Hey man, what's up? I love you, man. No homo." But then when alcohol or something comes around, they're more at ease. "Hey, bro, what's up, man?" So let's talk about that for a minute. This loss of intimacy and connections. Can we touch on that for a little bit? Why do you guys think it's like that? I know we can say it's because of how we were brought up and how we were raised, but we're now living in a society where things continue to change. But this is like a prominent issue that still remains.
Telling your friends you love them is nowhere being gay, and that I think it's afraid if I tell my friends I love them, they're gonna think I'm gay. No, because if you do your research, and some African tribes, the men hold hands.
Yep.
It's a sign of endearment and brotherhood. In some African tribes, the boys leave for rites of passion and live in close proximities and develop these deep familial bonds with each other, and friendships, and become warriors once they emerge. So we have got away from telling each other we love each other, period. We don't even tell our parents we love them every day until they're dead, but they lay in the casket and say, "Mom, I told you I loved you more." So telling your friends you love them, I tell my friends I love them, and I tell them they get on my nerves all in the same breath. But at the end of the day, I do love my friends, because my grandma always said, give their flowers while they're still living and while they can still smell them. So I want you to know, and love is a verb, it's an action. I just cannot tell you I love you. I have to show you I love you in the way I express and do things around you, so you see that you care, that I love you. So my friends know that.
So I'm really glad that you said that. And I think it's also important that we acknowledge that any genuine relationship is going to require complete honesty. And by that, I mean, if you genuinely love your friends, you should be able to tell them that. And if when you have problems with them, like if your friends, if their breath stinks, you need to be able to tell them that too, right? Any real relationship requires brutal honesty. And that honesty doesn't always have to be coming from a place that is that is hurtful. It should come from a place that is loving as well. So that, when your friends do something well for you, you should be able to express that. When you love them or when they make you feel good, you should be able to tell them that too. The thing I think I'm going to stick a pin in is the fact that, in Western society, this whole concept of how men need to comport themselves has pretty much robbed us of our humanity. And I don't think we really acknowledge that quite enough, that, in trying to be this iconic Western man, we have sacrificed parts of ourselves that are absolutely critical to maintain our health and our wellness. What do I mean by that? It is absolutely critical that men be able to express the tenderness of being in intimate relationships with people. And I'm not talking about sexually intimate relationships. I mean, that part too, but you need to be able to express intimacy with the people who you come in contact with your friends. You need to be able to, cuddle up with your children and actually show them that you can be caring, that you have a sense of finesse. Those types of things we don't get to do, or we're said to be suspect if we express those types of things. And I think we really need to actively push back on those types of things in order to reclaim who we are as full human beings.
You're so right, Dr. Young. I don't know if you guys saw this because I'm not sure how active you guys are on social media, but I am. There was a post a couple months ago where I think it was Smokey Norfolk and his son, and it's like, and the people just went in like, I think his son may be like I think his son may have been 16. Like 13 or something, 16 years old, and it was just an intimate moment it was an intimate father-son moment, and society, individuals in society just took it and ran with it and said all these different things about it. But those are the things that keep you grounded. Like, I'm able to tell my child, even at 16, I love you. I'm able to show love, and it creates a level of an even greater level of respect, and shows him that it's okay to express those type of feelings and things with individuals outside, individuals just in general. Go ahead, Dr. Dix.
No, I love my stepfather and my dad tell me they love me. It makes me feel good inside. I love it. I mean, I think a lot of that, what you saw with that picture that he posted, a lot of the men wish they had that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was something they wished. It's like this envy. I didn't have that, so I'm going to project. A lot of people's thoughts are projections of how they really feel.
Sure,
exactly.
That they don't want to express. So, and what they're projecting is a polar opposite of how they feel. So they want that. Who doesn't want to be loved?
Who doesn't want to be loved?
This dog right here next to me, he wants to be loved. He's like dying to jump up here in my lap. Every breathing thing wants some type of intimacy and love. And I think we have, like Dr. Young said, humanity is broken. We have got away from telling that we love them. I tell my students I love them, and they get on my nerves. I do. And I think because I tell, and as educators, sometimes I don't know when I'm going to see them again. I don't. Exactly. I've lost 2 this year. We don't know, and now we're on virtuals, and they're driving on Zoom. I'm scared. You can crash. I don't want it to happen to you while you're in my classroom, virtually. So these are it's that
right.
We never know.
So I'm going to throw out something that
least I can do is say I love you. It's good.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Doc.
I'm sorry. I was going to throw out something that might be a little controversial, but well, first, I'm glad that you brought up the picture with Smokey Norfolk, because that kind of speaks to the point I was trying to make before. Can you imagine feeling? I mean, that picture, was a lot of emotion in that picture, right? I mean, if you saw it, you felt it. You knew it was an expression of love. Mm-hmm. But can you imagine feeling that, but then being confined in such a way that you couldn't actually say it because someone's going to make you feel like you were, somehow less than a man because you were showing emotion? I mean, there's the brokenness, right? The response to that picture is exactly the brokenness that we need to try to move away from. The fact that, it's okay for us to fully express who we are, and we do sacrifice a part of ourselves anytime that we don't allow ourselves to do so.
Mm-hmm.
You're so right with that. It's like, it's one of those, like what grandma say, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I'm going to be a great father if nothing else. So I really am. When I was, you just take a minute and read the comments. You're like these dudes are really mad. Like Dr. Dix is saying, they want what they see, but don't know how to. Yeah, it had me hot. I'm gonna just leave it there.
Because if you look at any young man who didn't grow up with his father, he'll always say, I wish my dad told me. I didn't think my dad loved me.
Right.
That's all you hear. Ask anybody who grew up in a single parent home without their father. I'm just my man of fathers here. my dad didn't love me.
I said that.
That's what you hear. It's a universal. It's universal. I hear all the time.
Absolutely. Boys crave the attention of their fathers. Absolutely. The attention and the affection of their fathers. Absolutely.
And I think fathers love their sons differently. My dad loves my sisters differently. My mom loves me differently. But it's a different type of love that you get from each parent. It's different. But we long for that masculine bond with our dads. Well, I think, and sometimes like they with females they call it, I have daddy issues. We see with females have daddy issues. Boys have it too. Men have it too. We do. We just express ours differently.
It's not gender based. It's exactly. Gentlemen, I saw a post, and this is the last thing. I saw a post a couple weeks ago. Did you guys see the article on social media about telling male friends I love you is a muscle guys need to flex every day?
I didn't see that. I don't even understand this.
There was an article about it. Well, they were saying how they were talking about how was it article on that was floating around social media saying that as men we you to our male friends, especially with so much happening and all this doing the whole Black Lives Matter movement, and that we never know when we're going to see our friends again. So like you said earlier, Dr. Dick, you tell your friends you love them all the time, but I'm like, who wrote the article? And how do you dictate how I communicate with my male friends? Like I tell my friends, yo, bro, I love you, man. I'm praying for you. I hope things are going well, but really floating this article, you can't dictate what someone does. My friends know that I love them, and I have no problem telling them that I love them, whether they're male or whether they're female. So, Doc, back up there again because I've never seen this. Yeah, that
I'm just trying to
I looked at it
understand
from a lens of
the crux of that statement that was made. It's just not processing. Doctor, is it processing with you? I just don't understand it.
Well, I think I get the sentiment. I think what's being expressed here is that men should make it a habit of pushing themselves to express their emotions in ways that sometimes would make them uncomfortable. So I think there is value in being able to tell the people around you, the people who you care about, that you do love them, and it's not an exercise that we entertain as much as we perhaps should. Now, does that mean you really need to go tell your friends every day I love you? Probably not. But I would be remiss if there were any of my close friends, any family members, what have you, that were in constant contact with me and they didn't know that I loved them, or they didn't hear me say it, periodically, right? There should be nothing that stops me from expressing, emotion to my friends, to my family, what have you. That is the very definition of male fragility, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
So when your concept of manhood, masculinity is so fragile that you care so much about how you're going to look to other people or what other people are going to say, that's fragility. When you are fully self-actualized as a man, it doesn't matter what other people think about you. You live in this world in a powerful way based on the way that you want to interact with other people. Full stop.
And to add to what you're saying, it's like it even went into the point of why is it so hard to say I love you? And for some of us, I don't think it's hard. Some of us, you say it's nothing for me to say I love you. If I love you, I love you. You're gonna know it. I don't mind telling you. But for some of us, it isn't hard to say. For others, it may be. But there are situational things that have happened that make it hard for us to say it. And you can't just say this is a muscle I need to flex, because unlike y'all, I'm not in the gym every day because I'm still nursing this injury on my knee. But it's a muscle that I need to work on. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It wasn't. I said, let me get my brother's insight on this. Listen, I gotta ask. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So I just want to say that it wasn't something that was always easy for me to do. If I'm being completely honest, I didn't grow up in a household where people said I love you. I don't recall my mother ever saying she loved me to me, even though I knew she did. I don't recall her ever saying it to me until, I was off in college, right? It wasn't something, and I certainly didn't say it to my friends back in high school. I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, and it was like one of those places where, men do not interact with each other that way, or at least they didn't. But it was a muscle that I grew, something that I flexed, and that started at Morehouse. That was the first time that another man in a platonic way said, I love you. And I'll be honest with you, it totally took me aback when it first happened. But, over time, when you get comfortable with the fact that, it's okay for men to be able to communicate with each other and say that I love you, and not mean that it means I want to take you to bed or anything like that, then, once you get comfortable with that, once you make that shift, then you become more comfortable doing it, and then you're able to express it better to the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I want to close this thing out. I always ask this question. So what's next for you, brothers? Do you have anything coming down the pipeline? Any platforms you're going to be on coming up very soon that they maybe can register for? Any new publications? Is there anything coming down the line for either of you?
I've got a podcast in the works.
Okay.
Called Life, Love, Sex, and Bodybuilding. My 10-year application is due on Monday.
Okay.
And looking forward to getting back out in the world and vacating across the world. And you know what, Dr. Young, because of you, I'm leaning towards the vaccine. I think I'm going to do it.
Yes, there we go. There's
I had to make an informed decision.
Mm-hmm.
And again, not to go all the way back, but we don't know how to make informed medical decisions. I've reached out to my scientist friends. I've reached out to my clinicians, and so I can make an informed decision what's best for me. And not all of them were for the vaccine, but I had to do what's best for me because, again, I have older parents. My dad is like he's living like in this shell right now. He's scared to do everything, and I can't have him living like that. So that's why I'm plus we're going back to school in the fall. So
excellent.
And a good tag team here. A vaccine passport, brother.
Yeah, I hope not. I didn't want to believe it, but I see it coming into fruition more and more with this vaccine passport. I really do. You can't go on a cruise ship without it now. So
right. I'm proud of you, brother.
That's all for me.
So that was actually the perfect segue because a lot of what I have on the horizon has to do with vaccine education and addressing the issue of vaccine hesitancy. So Dr. Dix made that statement, I believe, because he knew that I was a participant in vaccine trials, and I've been very vocal about that. So I volunteer for the Moderna trial and am a participant in the Novavax trial right now, and I've been chronicling that. I was in the BBC News about a week ago, just kind of talking about that. And I'll be on a panel at Morehouse School of Medicine talking about that tomorrow as well. So that's what's on the immediate horizon for me, just making sure that I'm out in the public space talking as a scientist, someone who has worked in infectious diseases, who has worked in microbiology, just really talking about how this vaccine was developed and putting my body on the line in order to demonstrate in communities of color that it is safe and efficacious, and this is the way for us to return to normal. And the longer sense, I'm actually transitioning more towards public health. So I have not made this announcement publicly, but I am pursuing a master's in public health, and we'll probably start moving away from, not so much away from chemistry. It's still going to be a part of what I do on a day in and day out. But I am going to be doing a little bit more in the realm of public health in the years to come.
Yeah, let's talk about that, Doc, because a lot of times, from a public health standpoint, a lot of us aren't in the trenches educating the community about the efficacy of the virus, and we don't understand virology at all. So we just don't. I think, and sometimes we see scientists talking, but they got to bring it down into layman's terms. Everyone doesn't understand scientific jargon, especially with some people can't even read. So you can't expect them to understand. They listen to these conspiracy theories. They believe what they see on television and not do the research themselves. So I think as public health practitioners, we need to be more in the trenches right now, educating the community on the efficacy, the effectiveness, and how it can restore normalcy in our communities, in our world.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
No, the normalcy. It's the normalcy piece for me, man. This has been. This was the week last year when the world just
Stopped.
It's 1 year today. Yep.
We thought we would be going out for a couple weeks tops, and we'll be back in our buildings. And we've been out for a year. I haven't seen my kids in a year, so it's like, man, yeah. We're pushing through this thing though. So brothers, thank you guys so much for joining me on tonight. This has been the Health and Healing edition of Dialogues with Doc. I have had two amazing guests on with me tonight, Dr. Young and Dr. Dix, who have shared and poured out tonight some very pertinent information. My hope and my prayer is that you learned something on tonight, and if you share the broadcast, someone that will watch it at maybe 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning on either of the platforms, YouTube or Facebook, will be able to glean from it as well. So my brothers, stay strong out there. There is health and healing on the horizon, and it's okay to not be okay. Tell someone, speak with someone. If you have the insurance that you're paying for bi-weekly or monthly, use it. Use it. That's what, if you take nothing else from the show tonight, you're paying for it. Don't waste your money. Use it. This has been this week's edition of Dialogues with Doc. I will see you guys again next Wednesday at 8 p.m. for another awesome and amazing topic. Stay tuned. I have some more things coming up. So the month of April is going to be very interesting. So I'll see you guys next week at 8 p.m.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Take care. Be blessed.